Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Way D of Dream Slide Productions. I want to try to make this one short and sweet. I recently got crate cuts from Native Instruments and I thought it was a great time to go over my process of how I organize samples. Now everybody has their idea of what makes a great producer, whether it's their mastery of arrangement, the swing of their drums, or how hard their kick knocks. But we can all agree at a base level it all comes down to sound. And that's why I thought it'd be a great time to go over how I organize mine and maybe to get you thinking of how you should go about organizing your samples in different ways that benefits you. Alright, so a little information here about crate cuts. It's a sample-based library, 45 machine kits, 12 Monarch kits, and over 500 loops. So obviously that's the big sell of crate cuts, is the loops and how to slice them and rearrange them and so much of such. Alright, so let's pull up Maschine. Alright, as you can see, I already have some of these favorited. I favorite on a system based on what best represents, one, the expansion in question, two, if I need to hurry up and find something that just works under my fingers, that's already something they programmed, this is where I would look. But my process goes a lot deeper than just selecting favorites directly off of the group list. Now, dealing with any kind of expansion, I suggest you go through the projects and see the sound they're going for. Every expansion has their thing, boom bap, hip-hop, techno, house, all those things. There's a ton of expansions and they all have their own, vibe. Now I do want to say Native Instruments is not sponsoring me for any of this. I have bought all the expansions that I do have. I may have a problem, but admitting it is the first step to finding a solution, as they say. Alright, so like I was saying, I would definitely listen to the projects, get an idea of the sound they're going for. Plus also you can see how they flipped a couple things that you may like to try and use yourself. Okay, moving on, if we just clear that out. How I go about personally going about this process, okay, is I start with 8 groups. Group A is for auditioning the group in question. So we'll say the first one is the answers kit. That will always change based on what I'm auditioning. So for me, group A is for auditioning. Okay, from here, just to make things simple, alright, so I go with an 8-group system initially, since Maschine has the 8 buttons to represent the groups that I can easily flip through on my system. Alright, my first group, like I said, is always for auditioning whatever group I'm listening to. And then my other groups are for moving things over. So for example, I have kicks, snares, percussive elements, bass and sub. I have vocals and effects I usually like to throw in that same category. I have what I call pitchables. Pitchables are like when you have like a pad that only plays like a C minor chord and you have a series of like 4 of those and you can move those around. I call those things like pitchable effects, or pitchable samples rather. And then I have my loops. If they had a guitar riff that I'm like and I want to chop up later, I feel like I can flip it, it will get added into this category. Alright, this is how I start things for every single expansion that I have. Okay, so it starts off like that, and by the end I have multiple of everything. So in the end I had 1 set of kicks, 2 sets of snares, 2 sets of percussive elements, only a couple of bass and vocal effects, 5 groups of pitchable things that I loved from this expansion. And that was the biggest thing for me. I don't think any other expansion has gotten me to fill out 5 groups of 16 pads of just things I know I want to use later. So we'll go more in that in detail later. And I have 2 things of loops, 2 groups of loops. Alright, so pretty much I'm going to show you how I got from there, why I work this way, and why I think it's beneficial for others to work this way. And if you have an example of something that works better for you, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what it is. I love learning new things and trying different tactics to make my whole system a lot more efficient. So please, if you have something, leave it down below. And while we're at it, if you can take the time to like and subscribe to help the algorithm know that I'm alive out here, promote this channel to your friends, I would greatly appreciate it as well. So what I want to do is start from scratch so you can kind of see my whole situation of how I went about this. As you saw in my finished product, what's really cool about the end of this, I can go into my custom groups and you can see that I have already done a lot of these and I can pull up a lot of things on the fly. I take my favorite samples from the expansions that I have and I put them in those categories, and then I take all those single categories, like all the expansions I have, all the kicks, and then I make my own groups of like favorite kicks, favorite hats, favorite snares. And when I say snares, usually that includes claps, snaps, and things like that, all in that snare kind of vibe. All right, so doing this helps you find your go-to sounds, because one thing that's really dope about Maschine is there's a ton of options. One thing that's not beneficial for your production, if you want to be efficient and fast, is there's a ton of options. So there's times and places for that, and when you're in a mood to explore and just be creative, and what happens happens, and you don't have to worry about time, by all means explore the options. But when you have clients and deadlines and things that need to be finished quickly, do what you can to make the whole process as efficient as possible. Help you out in the long run. But I digress. Let's get back to what I was talking about. All right, so as you can see, I got the first kit loaded answers in my audition slot. I have the patterns included as well, along with the BPM matching for the patterns of the audition. That way, as I go through the sounds, I may not like something, you'll hear, kick, snare, you'll go through stuff and you won't think much of it. And then you'll play the pattern and be like, I like what they did there. That's a good idea. That's why you want to listen to the patterns, listen to the projects. You might just learn something. You might be surprised. I forgot what expansion it was, but it was all about the built-in synthesizer, like drum synth and performance percussion elements that Maschine just comes stock with, and what they did to make those amazing. And I learned a lot about just that particular part of the Maschine. So by all means, believe me when I say it's a good idea to listen to the projects and the patterns to get a good vibe and possibly learn something. So what I normally do, go through stuff. All right, so I like this particular sample. There's two ways that you can go about adding that to your groups. For me, my snares group, you can rather just duplicate it on the Maschine itself. You can duplicate it, go to my snares group, add it to the snares. Now it's in there, all done, nice and neat. I prefer that method, and I'll go over why in a moment. All right, the other option is you can search for it in the library itself. It'll bring up the samples area. It'll bring it up here, and you can put a little star on it. All right, that's the other way you can do it. The reason why I prefer the first method, if we go back here, and I'll give you a better example with something else. Let's say this chime, all right? If we look here in this section, this chime that they have in this group has a delay and a reverb on it. Now, if you duplicate it, and I'll put this in my percussive elements, put it in here, when I duplicate it, it also has that delay and that reverb on it that was originally on it. Now, if you go and find it in the sample section, for chime D1 and you favorite it there, what happens is it only gives you the chime itself. So let's say I put that on this group. There's no delay and there's no reverb, and the pitch is different, as you can tell. So there's a time and a place where you may want to add a star in the loop section or the sample section of the actual expansion. And then there's times where you want to actually duplicate it from the group it was in over to your personal group. It's up to you on your method. If you want all the effects, you have to duplicate it from the main group. If you just want to hold on to that, or like I said with that snap, it doesn't have anything on it. It's just the sample itself, so you don't really have to go about that. So you have two methods. Use them how you wish. Just showing you what I do. All right, so as you saw from Future Me, I already have this sorted into things I like and the groups and how I made them. I'm going to go ahead and start this process, skip ahead, and show you how I got there. I'm coming across this massive patch, I am a fan of this. I do add massive and monarch favorites as well as I come across them. Earlier in the video, you saw that I did a plug-in button on the machine. You hit the magnifying glass, zoom lens, magnifying glass, yeah. You hit the magnifying glass. You can then have that highlighted. Sometimes you do have to bring it up on the screen because this name will be different than, you know, massive introvert, and that's actually what you want to fave. Shift from that there, browser, shift, set as favorite is how you do it on a device. If you're doing this in the software, you bring up the massive plugin, you hit the little magnifying glass here, and then you can add your little favorite star there. So just wanted to make sure I covered both steps. Now, one thing I do suggest when you are curating and going through these sounds is having a little, you know, MIDI board available. It definitely helps when you want to mess with things on the fly, and for obvious reasons. If you have a kick and you want to mess with the pitch of it, it's cool to be able to hear those things on the fly to see how versatile something is. And as you're messing with things, it's faster. I mean, you can go into keyboard mode, which is cool, but having a nice little MIDI board, or even like, you know, like I have a full 88 key situation to my right, is handy. I recommend it if you can. I like that. And usually if I add more than 3 or 4 things to one of my personal groups, it gets a star. Or if I can feel like I can play it right off the bat, it gets a star. It's a dope kit. Move it along. Love rain. Oh. Bruh, already. Bruh, here's your pop song right there. Yeah, woo. That bounce is nice. Now, I was on the forums because I was just Google searching if I wanted to get the new crate cuts or if I wanted faded reels, because I was eyeing that one for a while. And one of the comments I heard was there's a lot of vinyl crackle on a lot of the kits and faded reels, and crate cuts is a lot like that, but they tone down the vinyl crackle, which is why I lean towards crate cuts versus faded reels. But I'll probably still get faded reels also. But that's why, you know, I have noticed that you do hear that like vinyl crackle, and it's great for when you want it. But if like the whole expansion is just saturated in that, and that's not always what you want all the time, I can see why that would turn some people off of it. Now, I don't have faded reels yet, but in case you were on the fence for either, like I was, just figured I'd pass that information along. Yeah, what did they do? There's so much great stuff in here. Like I said, I'm not being paid to say that. I legit, there's some cool stuff in here. Whoa, look how they're using that piano sample. See, and that's the stuff I'm talking about. That opened up some ideas, like the cut it and play it like a sample, which is probably what this whole pack is meant for. But without me hearing it, I would never thought of it. I would have just been like, oh, pitch the whole thing down, make it like little flourishes in whatever song I was working with. So actually, I respect that. That's nice. We'll see what they got on the last one. And don't sleep on these little shaker loops, because they really give when you're having a hard time finding swing, these little things help set it for you. And then it's a lot easier to then customize it and do what you want around it, because that swing is already put in there. If you can get a head bounce going from a loop, anything you build around that loop, and then when you take it out at the end, will work. So because of that, I will put that into my loops, because I do like that vibe. I guess I could have put it in my perks too, but usually I guess I could have used it in my percussion group as well, but I usually don't like to put loops in there. I like those just being like one-shot situations. So let's just see what happens moving forward. That was a happy accident. Bro, we're on Pitchables 5. And as you're adding stuff to your kit, it's good that the reference. So like for this one, I'm on this Take Care kit. And I'm feeling this kick. I want to make sure I don't have another kick that sounds like that. So like this. Has a crackle in it, has the vinyl in it. And it's like they octave dropped the vinyl on this one. But it's very similar, honestly. If I take that and pitch it down a little bit, well, it's pretty much the same sample. So, reference. That way you're just not adding a bunch of the same things. Okay. I want to take this just because I'm liking the vibe. Oh, and I finished off loops. Bruh. Like, I'm not saying this for the video. I have never had an expansion where I have made so many groups. This is absurd. I'm glad I got this because I love so much in it. Maybe too much, but that's what it's about, you know. If there's an expansion that suits you so much, I'll drop the money. You know, that's what it's all about. I don't care how much I paid because I'm loving it. I can hear the potential. I'm super excited. I like that. All right, everybody, and that'll just about do it. You saw how I group my sounds into my own personalized groups. You see how I favorite things within the Maschine software to recall them later, and how I go about the whole organization process and take those sounds and then make my favorite kits and personal custom kits and etc. So you pretty much learned my whole method. Now, if it's best for you, that's up to you to decide. I just wanted to make sure that information was out there because organization is a great thing to have when you're dealing with something as expansive as Maschine, pun intended. Anyways, leave a comment down below if there's a better process out there, something a little more efficient, how you guys do your samples. I'm always willing to learn things. All right, like, subscribe so YouTube knows I'm here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, keep making music.